I buried my brother twice. The first time, I believed it. The second time, I knew better. But by then, knowing did not matter. Some things, once broken, cannot be put back the way they were. War taught me that. My brother taught me that. The beach taught me that. His name was James. Mine is Robert. We came into this world together on a cold February morning in 1922 in a farmhouse outside Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Our mother said I was born first, but only by 3 minutes. James never let me forget those 3 minutes. He said they made me the older brother, which meant I was supposed to look after him. I told him 3 minutes did not count. He said they did. We looked so alike that even our own father sometimes called us by the wrong name. Same dark hair that stuck up in the back, no matter how much we slicked it down. Same gray eyes. Same chip in the left front tooth from the time we both tried to climb the same tree and both fell out of it on the same day. People in town used to make a game of it, trying to tell us apart. Most of them got it wrong, but there were differences. If you knew where to look. James had a scar on his left wrist from the time he caught it on a barbed wire fence when he was 8. I had a birthmark shaped like a comma just below my right collarbone. James laughed louder than I did. I thought longer before I spoke. He was the one who started fights. I was the one who finished them. We did everything together. We learned to ride the same bicycle on the same day, and both skinned our knees on the same patch of gravel. We worked the same fields, pulling corn in the summers until our hands bled and our backs screamed. We fished the same creek and lied about the size of the same catfish. When the radio in our kitchen crackled with news about Poland, then France, then the ships burning in Hawaii, we sat at the same table and looked at each other with the same thought. On December 8th, 1941, the day after Pearl Harbor, we walked into the recruitment office in Cedar Rapids together. The man behind the desk looked up at us and blinked. "You two related?" he asked. "Twins," James said. The man shook his head and pushed 2 sets of papers across the desk. "Army does not care if you're twins," he said. "You go where they send you." We signed the papers side by side. Our signatures looked so similar that the recruiter had to check the names twice. When we walked out, James clapped me on the shoulder. "Looks like you are stuck with me," he said. "Looks like," I said. Our mother cried for 2 days. Our father did not say much, but I saw him standing in the barn one evening with his back to the house, shoulders shaking. He had fought in the First War, the one they said would end all wars. He knew what we were walking into, even if we did not. We shipped out for basic training in January of 1942. Fort Benning, Georgia. Red clay mud that stuck to everything and a sun that baked us even in winter. They shaved our heads, dressed us in uniforms that smelled like mothballs, and spent 12 weeks trying to turn farm boys into soldiers. James took to it faster than I did. He could field strip a rifle in the dark by the end of the first month. He ran the obstacle course like he had been born to it. When they taught us to throw grenades, his went farther than anyone else's in the platoon. The drill instructor, a man with a face like a clenched fist and a voice that could strip paint, pulled James aside one day and told him he was making the rest of us look bad. James grinned. The instructor did not grin back. I was steadier. I qualified expert on the rifle range, not because I was fast, but because I did not miss. When they taught us to read maps and navigate by compass, I was the one the others asked for help. James was better at the doing. I was better at the thinking. Together, we made sense. They assigned us to the same unit. 29th Infantry Division, blue and gray patch on the shoulder, half Union blue, half Confederate gray, stitched together like the country itself. They told us we would be heading to England for more training before the real work started. They did not tell us what the real work would be, but we knew. Everyone knew. You do not pack that many men onto that many ships unless you plan to put them on a beach somewhere. We sailed in September of 1943, convoy across the Atlantic, 34 days of gray water and grayer skies, and a transport ship that rolled so hard that half the men spent the voyage leaning over the rail. James threw up twice the first day, then got his sea legs and spent the rest of the trip playing poker with men who should have known better than to bet against him. I kept my food down and read the same 3 books over and over because there was nothing else to do. England was cold and wet and green in a way that Iowa never was. They sent us to a base in the south, near a town whose name I have forgotten. We trained, and trained, and trained. Beach landings, amphibious assaults, how to get out of a Higgins boat when men were shooting at you, how to run across open sand when there was no cover, how to dig a hole fast enough to matter. One night, lying in our bunks in a Quonset hut that smelled like diesel and sweat, James turned his head toward me. "You scared?" he asked. "Yes," I said. "Me too." We did not talk about it after that. There was no point. Scared or not, we were going. The only question was when. The when turned out to be early June of 1944. They did not tell us the date. They did not tell us the beach. But they loaded us onto trucks and then onto ships. And when you are standing on the deck of a transport ship with 2,000 other men, and every one of them is checking his rifle and writing letters home, you know the day has come. The night before, James and I sat on a crate near the stern, away from the others. The water was black. The sky was blacker. Somewhere out there in the dark were more ships than I could count, all of them heading toward the same shore. James pulled something out of his pocket, a small stone, smooth and gray, the kind you find in creek beds. "Remember this?" he asked. I looked at it. I did remember. We had skipped stones on the creek behind our house the day before we left for basic training. James had found that one and said it was perfect. 5 skips, he had said. Watch. It had gone 7. "You kept it," I said. He turned it over in his hand. "Figured I would bring it back," he said. "Skip it one more time when we get home." He held it out to me. "You hold on to it," he said. I shook my head. "You are the one who found it." He pressed it into my palm anyway. "Just in case," he said. "In case of what?" He did not answer. He just looked out at the black water. "We are going to be fine," I said. "We watch each other's backs. Just like always." "Just like always," he said. I put the stone in my pocket. It sat there, small and smooth and cold, while the ship rocked and the wind picked up and the hours crawled toward dawn. They woke us at 3 a.m. No breakfast, just coffee that tasted like oil and a pack of crackers that no one ate. We lined up on deck in full gear, rifle, ammunition, grenades, entrenching tool, gas mask, rations, all of it strapped and clipped and tied to us until we were carrying more weight than some men back home lifted in a day. The Higgins boats sat in the water below, rising and falling with the swells. Cargo nets hung down the side of the ship. You climbed down the net, timed your drop, and fell into the boat. If you mistimed it, you went into the water. If you went into the water with that much gear, you did not come back up. James went down first. I watched him climb, hand over hand, boots finding the gaps in the net. He dropped into the boat and turned to look up at me. I followed. My hands were shaking. I told myself it was the cold. The boat filled. 30 men packed shoulder to shoulder. The coxswain at the back gunned the engine. The ramp was still up. We could not see anything except the gray steel wall in front of us and the gray sky above. Someone was praying. Someone else was throwing up. Most of us just stood there, gripping our rifles, saying nothing. The boat circled and circled, waiting for the signal. I could feel the stone in my pocket, pressing against my hip through the fabric. I thought about the creek. I thought about the farm. I thought about the way the wind sounded through the corn in August. Then the engine roared and we were moving. The ride in was the longest 30 minutes of my life. The boat smacked into every wave like it was trying to break apart. Water sprayed over the sides. Men shifted and swayed, trying to keep their balance. No one talked. There was nothing to say. I could hear it before I could see it. A sound like thunder, but continuous. Explosions, big naval guns firing from the ships behind us, smaller guns firing from somewhere ahead, and under it all, a high whining buzz that I did not recognize at first. Then I did. Bullets, thousands of them, cutting through the air above the water. The coxswain shouted something I could not hear. The boat lurched. The engine screamed, and then the ramp dropped. Light poured in. Gray light, smoke, the smell of burning metal and something else, something sweet and wrong, and noise. Noise so loud it stopped being sound and became pressure pushing into my skull from every direction. The men at the front moved, or tried to. Some of them made it 2 steps. Some of them made it 1. Some of them fell before they even left the boat. I do not remember deciding to move. My body just did it. I stepped over something soft and went into the water. It was cold, colder than I expected, waist deep. I pushed forward because there was nowhere else to go. James was ahead of me. I could see the back of his helmet. I focused on that. Just keep him in sight. That was the deal. We watch each other's backs. The beach was chaos. Men running, men crawling, men lying still. Obstacles stuck up out of the sand, metal crosses with mines strapped to them. The water around them frothed and jumped where bullets hit. Smoke rolled across everything in thick gray curtains. I made it to the sand. Wet sand. It grabbed at my boots. I ran anyway, or something like running, more of a stumbling lurch under the weight of the gear. There was supposed to be cover. They had told us there would be cover, craters, debris, seawall. There was nothing. Just open beach and a long slope up to a ridge where the guns were. James was still ahead. He dropped behind something, a piece of a blown-apart landing craft. I threw myself down next to him. My chest was heaving. My ears were ringing. He looked at me. His face was streaked with salt water and sand. His eyes were wide. "You good?" he shouted. I nodded. "Stay close," he shouted. I nodded again. He moved. I moved. We ran, dropped, ran again. There was no plan. There was no strategy. There was just forward, because staying still meant dying. I do not know how long it went on. Time did not work right. Seconds stretched. Minutes vanished. I would look up, and James would be 20 yards ahead. I would blink, and he would be right next to me. Everything was fragments. A helmet rolling past. A rifle stuck bayonet first into the sand. A boot with no foot in it. We made it to the seawall. A low concrete barrier that ran along the top of the beach. Men were packed behind it, pressed flat, trying to become part of the stone. There was no room. We squeezed in anyway. James was breathing hard. So was I. He turned his head, grinned. "Still here," he said. "Still here," I said. An explosion hit close. The wall shook. Dust and chips of concrete rained down. When the smoke cleared, there was a gap in the line. 3 men who had been there were not there anymore. "We have to move," someone shouted. An officer, lieutenant. I did not know his name. "Up the hill. Now." No one moved. "Now." The lieutenant shouted again. James looked at me. I looked at him. "Together," I said. "Together," he said. We went over the wall. The hill was worse than the beach. Steeper. No cover at all. Just grass and dirt and mines. I saw a man step wrong and vanish in a column of dirt and fire. I stepped where he had been standing 2 seconds before and kept running. Halfway up, I looked back. James was not there. I stopped, turned, scanned the slope. Men everywhere, but none of them were him. I started back down. Someone grabbed my arm. A sergeant I did not know. "Wrong way, soldier." "My brother," I shouted. He pointed up the hill. "Only way is forward." I shook him off and kept going down. I found James 30 yards below. He was on his side, half in a crater. His rifle was gone. His helmet was gone. I dropped next to him and rolled him onto his back. His face was burned. The left side, black and red and peeling. His left arm was twisted wrong, but his chest was moving. He was breathing. "James," I shouted. His eyes opened, unfocused. He looked at me but did not see me. "James," I shouted again. His lips moved. No sound came out. I got my arms under him, tried to lift. He was too heavy. The gear. I tore at the straps, got his pack off, his ammunition belt. Tried again. A burst of machine gun fire stitched across the dirt next to us. I threw myself flat. James did not move. When I looked up, a medic was there, Red Cross on his helmet. He was young, younger than me. "He is alive," I said. The medic bent down, checked James's pulse, lifted his eyelids, put a hand on his chest. Then he looked at me and shook his head. "No," I said. "He is breathing." The medic pointed at James's chest. I looked. There was a hole, small, just under the ribs on the right side. I had not seen it. Blood was coming out. Not fast, just a slow, steady seep. "He has got minutes," the medic said. "Maybe less. I cannot do anything here." "Then we move him," I said. The medic looked up the hill, back at James, at me. "He won't make it." "We try," I said. The medic hesitated, then nodded. We got him between us. I took his shoulders. The medic took his legs. We ran. I do not remember the climb. I remember hitting the top. I remember dragging James behind a pile of rubble that had been a bunker. I remember the medic working, hands moving fast, pulling bandages and morphine from his kit. I remember James's eyes opening one more time, focusing, seeing me. "Rob," he said. "Just my name. Nothing else." "I am here," I said. His hand moved, reached for me. I grabbed it. 3 minutes, he said. I did not understand. His hand squeezed mine. Weak. Then it went slack. The medic sat back. "I am sorry," he said. I stayed there, holding my brother's hand, while the battle raged around us and the smoke rolled and the noise hammered and the world kept turning like nothing had happened at all. James died on the hill above Omaha Beach at 0947 hours on June 6, 1944. I know the time because I looked at my watch when his hand stopped squeezing mine. I do not know why I did that. Maybe because I needed something solid, something that could not be argued with. They pulled me away an hour later. I did not want to go. A sergeant I did not know put a hand on my shoulder and said I had done all I could. I told him that was not true. He did not argue. He just pulled me to my feet and pointed me toward the rally point. I walked. I do not remember it. I remember arriving at a bombed-out farmhouse where the survivors were gathering. I remember sitting on the ground with my back against a wall. I remember someone handing me water. I remember not drinking it. At some point, someone asked my name. I told them. They wrote it down on a list. Then they asked if I knew anyone who had not made it. I told them James Calloway, my brother. They asked where. I pointed back toward the hill. They wrote that down too. 2 days later, they brought me his dog tags. I held them in my hand, 2 stamped metal rectangles on a chain, his name, his serial number, his blood type, Protestant. All of it pressed into steel that was still stained with dirt from the beach. "You want to see him?" the chaplain asked. I did not answer. "We are burying them tomorrow," the chaplain said. "Temporary graves, up the hill from the beach. You can say goodbye." I nodded. The next day, I walked up the hill. They had cleared it by then. The bunkers were blown open. The gun emplacements were silent. The mines were marked with white tape. At the top, they had laid the bodies in rows, dozens of them, maybe 100, all wrapped in canvas or shelter halves or whatever they could find. Dog tags tied to the outside. I walked the rows until I found his name. The body was wrapped tight. I could not see his face. I told myself that was better. I did not want to remember him like that. Burned. Broken. I knelt next to him, put my hand on the canvas where his chest would be. It was cold. Everything was cold. I did not pray. I did not know what to say. I just stayed there until someone told me I had to go. That night, I wrote the letter. "Dear Mom and Dad, I regret to inform you, James was killed in action. He died bravely. He did not suffer. All the things you are supposed to say, even though none of them were true. He had suffered. I had seen it. But you do not write that in a letter to your mother." I sealed it, gave it to the mail clerk, went back to my tent, and lay on my cot and stared at the canvas above me until the sun came up. I kept the dog tags. They told me I should turn them in, that the family would get them eventually along with his personal effects. I said I would. I did not. I put them in my pocket along with the stone. 2 pieces of my brother, all I had left. The division moved inland. We took towns whose names I did not learn. We dug in. We got shelled. We moved again. Weeks blurred into months. I did what I was told. I shot when they said shoot. I dug when they said dig. I stopped thinking past the next hour. People asked about James. Once or twice. I told them he was dead. They said they were sorry. I said thank you. That was the end of it. At night, when I could not sleep, I would take out the stone, turn it over in my hand, feel the smooth surface, think about the creak, about the sound the stone had made when it skipped. 7 times. I tried to remember what it felt like to care about something like that. I could not. By August, we were pushing toward Paris. By September, we were in Belgium. The weather turned. Rain, mud, cold that worked its way into your bones and stayed there. I stopped counting days. There was no point. In October, we rotated back to a rest area behind the lines. Hot food, showers, clean uniforms. They even gave us mail, letters from home that were weeks old. I got 3, 2 from my mother, 1 from my father. I read them. They asked about James. They said they were proud of both of us. They said they prayed for us every night. I did not write back. I did not know what to say. I'm still alive. Your other son is not. I am sorry I could not save him. None of it felt like enough. On the 4th day of rest, they sent a truck to take a squad to help with prisoner processing. A German field hospital had been overrun. Wounded prisoners, medical supplies, paperwork. They needed bodies to sort through it all. I volunteered. It was something to do. The hospital was in a small town 15 miles south, a school building, repurposed, classrooms turned into wards, desks shoved aside to make room for cots. The smell hit me when we walked in. Disinfectant, blood, infection. The same smell every field hospital has, whether it flies an American flag or a German one. They put us to work, cataloging prisoners, taking names, serial numbers, units. Most of the Germans were cooperative, too tired or too hurt to care anymore. A few were defiant. One spat at me. I walked away. I did not have the energy to be angry. By late afternoon, we were almost done. I was in the last ward, a long room with 15 cots. Most of the men were unconscious. A few stared at the ceiling. One was mumbling in German. I moved down the row. Name, rank, serial number. Write it down. Move to the next one. The man in the second-to-last cot was lying on his side, facing the wall. No tags. No identification. The nurse said he had been there for 3 months. Head trauma. Had not spoken. Did not respond to questions. They did not know if he was German or not. Turn him over, I said. She did. I looked at his face, and the world stopped. It was his face, but it was not his face. The same shape, same jaw, same dark hair, though it was longer now, matted and dirty. Same gray eyes, but the eyes were wrong, empty, like someone had scooped out everything behind them and left only the shell. I stood there, could not move, could not breathe. The clipboard in my hand fell. It hit the floor with a clap that echoed through the ward. The nurse bent to pick it up. I did not notice. James. I said his name. Not loud. Barely a whisper. He did not react. Just kept staring at the wall, at nothing, at a point in space that existed only for him. I moved closer, 3 steps, then 2 more, until I was standing next to the cot, close enough to see the scar. Left wrist, barbed wire, age 8. It was there, faded, half hidden under grime and old bandages. But there, I reached out, touched his shoulder. He flinched, pulled away, curled tighter into himself. James, I said again. Louder this time. It's me. It's Robert. Nothing. The nurse was behind me now. Her voice came from far away, though she was only 2 feet back. Do you know him? She asked. That is my brother, I said. The words felt strange in my mouth. Present tense. My brother. Not was. Is. She looked at the man on the cot, back at me. Her face was skeptical. You are sure? I turned, pulled open the collar of my shirt, showed her the birthmark, comma-shaped, just below my right collarbone. Then I pointed at his wrist, scar, left wrist, barbed wire, 1930. She hesitated. Then she pulled back the blanket and lifted his left arm. The scar was there, exactly where I said it would be. Her face changed. He was reported dead, she said. Wasn't he? Yes. When? June 6th. Omaha Beach. She looked at the man on the cot again. Her hand went to her mouth. 3 months, she said. He has been here 3 months. The Germans brought him in with the others. Head trauma. He had no identification, no tags, no papers. They assumed he was one of theirs. When we took the hospital, we assumed the same thing. I knelt next to the cot, close enough to see the damage. The left side of his head was misshapen, swollen. A long scar ran from his temple to behind his ear, thick and badly healed. His left eye sagged slightly, the eyelid drooping. Burns marked his neck and jaw, old enough to have scarred over, but recent enough that the skin was still pink and puckered. What happened to him? I asked. The nurse opened a folder, scanned the notes. Severe concussive trauma, skull fracture, possible brain bleed. He was unconscious when they found him. The Germans did surgery. Basic. Enough to keep him alive. When he woke up, he could not speak, could not respond. Severe amnesia. He does not know who he is. No. Or if he does, he cannot tell us. I stayed kneeling, staring at him. My brother. Dead for 3 months. Buried in a temporary grave on a hill in France. Except he was not dead. He was here, breathing, heart beating, but gone in every way that mattered. James, I said again, quietly, just his name. His eyes moved, slowly. They slid from the wall to me. No recognition, no spark. Just a dull, flat gaze that looked through me like I was made of glass. It's Robert, I said. Your brother. We grew up together. Cedar Rapids. Iowa, the farm, the creek. Remember? Nothing. I reached into my pocket, pulled out the stone, held it up where he could see it. You gave me this, I said, the night before the landing. You said to hold on to it. You said you would skip it again when we got home. 7 skips. Remember, his eyes did not move to the stone. They stayed on my face. Empty. I tried again, pulled out the dog tags. His dog tags, the ones they had given me after they buried him. These are yours, I said. James Michael Calloway. Serial number 3274915 Blood type O positive. They gave them to me when you died. Except you did not die. You are here. I held them out. Let them dangle from the chain. The metal caught the light. He blinked. Once. Slow. Then his eyes drifted back to the wall. I stayed there for an hour, talking, telling him stories. The tree we fell out of. The bicycle we learned to ride. The fish we lied about. The recruiter who could not tell us apart. The night on the ship. 3 minutes. You always had 3 minutes on me. He did not respond. Not once. He just lay there, breathing, staring, existing in some space I could not reach. When I finally stood, my knees ached. My throat was dry. The nurse was waiting by the door. How long has he been like this, I asked, since he woke up? 2 months now. Will he recover? She did not answer right away. We do not know, she said finally. Brain injuries are unpredictable. Some men recover. Some do not. Some recover partially. He might remember. He might not. There is no way to tell. I nodded, did not trust myself to speak. You should inform your command, she said. He will need to be transferred, processed, sent home. Home. The word felt wrong. What was home for someone who did not know what home meant? I went back the next day, and the day after that. Every day I could get away, sometimes for an hour, sometimes for 10 minutes. I sat next to his cot, talked, showed him things. The stone, the dog tags, a letter from our mother that I had kept in my pack, a photograph, creased and faded, of the two of us standing in front of the barn. He never responded, but on the 5th day, something changed. I was sitting next to him, telling him about the time we caught a catfish so big we could barely lift it, how we carried it home between us, each holding one end of the stringer, how our father did not believe us until he saw it, how we ate fried catfish for a week. James's hand moved, not much, just a twitch, fingers curling slightly, but it was movement, voluntary movement. I stopped talking. James. His hand moved again, reached toward me, slow, unsteady, like he was lifting something heavy. I took his hand. It was cold. The grip was weak, but it was there. Can you hear me? I asked. His lips moved, no sound, just the shape of something that might have been a word. I leaned closer. What? His lips moved again. I watched them, tried to read the shape. R. Just the letter, not my name, but close. Yes, I said. Robert, your brother. His hand squeezed mine. Once. Barely there. Then it went slack again. It was not much, but it was something. Over the next 2 weeks, there were more moments. Small ones. A flicker of his eyes when I said certain words. A faint nod when I asked if he was in pain. A grunt that might have been yes or might have been nothing. The doctors said it was progress. Minimal, but progress. They also said he would never be the same. I asked what that meant. They used words like cognitive impairment and permanent neurological damage and personality alteration. I asked them to say it plain. One of them, an older man with gray hair and tired eyes, finally did. The man you knew is gone, he said. This man has his face, his body, but his mind is different, broken. Even if he remembers things, even if he learns to speak again, he will not be who he was. So what is he? I asked. The doctor looked at me. No pity, just facts. A stranger, he said. I did not believe him, or I did not want to. I kept going back, kept talking, kept trying. On the 3rd week, James spoke. I was sitting next to him, reading from a letter our mother had sent. She was asking about him, about both of us, saying she prayed every night, that she lit a candle in the window so we would find our way home. James made a sound, low, rasping. I stopped reading. Home. One word. Slurred. Barely recognizable. But a word. Yes, I said. Home. You remember? His eyes moved to me, still dull, but focused now, seeing me instead of through me. Home, he said again. It was the only word he said that day, but it was enough. By the 4th week, they told me he was being transferred, a hospital ship, back to the States, to a veterans facility where they could care for him long-term. They said I could accompany him if I got leave. I applied. It was denied. My unit was moving up. They needed every man. The night before he left, I sat with him one last time. He was sitting up now. The nurses had gotten him into a chair. His posture was wrong, slouched, and uneven, but he was upright. His eyes tracked movement. He could hold a cup if someone put it in his hand. He spoke in fragments, single words, sometimes 2 or 3 strung together. I told him he was going home, that our mother would be there, our father, the farm. He nodded, slow, like the information took time to travel from his ears to his brain. Do you know who I am? I asked. He looked at me. For a long time, long enough that I thought he would not answer. Brother, he said finally. Yes. Rob. Yes. He reached out. I took his hand. He squeezed. Stronger than before. Still weak. But there. 3, he said. I did not understand. 3, he said again. His face twisted, struggling. Minutes. Something broke inside me. Not loud. Quiet. Like ice cracking under weight. He remembered. Not everything. Maybe not most things. But he remembered that. The joke. The 3 minutes. The thing that had been hours. I nodded. Could not speak. He squeezed my hand again. They took him the next morning, loaded him onto a truck with a dozen other wounded. I stood and watched until the truck disappeared around a bend in the road. He did not look back. I do not know if he even knew I was there. I went back to my unit that afternoon. We moved out 2 days later. Belgium, then Germany. Winter came, snow, cold. The war ground forward. I got letters from home. My mother wrote every week. She said James was there, that he was safe, that the doctors were doing what they could. She did not say he was better. She did not say he remembered her. She just said he was alive. My father wrote once, short, blunt, the way he always was. Your brother came home, but he is not your brother. I do not know who this man is. I am sorry. I carried that letter for the rest of the war, folded, refolded, until the creases were soft and the ink was fading. In March of 1945, we crossed the Rhine. In April, we pushed deeper into Germany. The landscape changed, burned out villages, factories reduced to rubble, refugees on the roads, thousands of them walking with everything they owned on their backs. We liberated camps. I will not describe what we found there. Some things do not fit into words. Some things should not. In May, the war ended. Germany surrendered. We stood in a field somewhere in Bavaria and listened to the announcement crackle over a radio. Men cheered. Some cried. I felt nothing. They sent us to occupation duty. Months of sitting in a garrison town processing paperwork, watching the defeated enemy shuffle past. I requested discharge. It took until October. By the time they cut my orders, I had been in uniform for 3 years and 10 months. I sailed home in November. Same gray ocean, different ship. I stood at the rail and looked at the water and thought about the trip over, about James standing next to me, talking about the stone, about how sure we had been that we would both make it. The ship docked in New York. They gave us our papers, discharge, honorable, mustering out pay, a bus ticket home. I took the bus. 2 days. Through states I barely saw. I slept when I could, woke when I could not. Cedar Rapids looked smaller than I remembered. The streets, the buildings, the people. Everything had shrunk, or I had grown, or the war had bent something inside me that made the world look different. I did not go home right away. I walked through town, past the recruitment office where we had signed up, past the diner where we used to eat on Saturdays, past the school, the church, all of it still there, untouched, like the war had never happened. I stood outside our house for 10 minutes before I walked up the path. My mother opened the door before I knocked. She must have seen me through the window. She cried, held me, said my name over and over. My father stood behind her. He shook my hand, nodded, did not say anything. He did not need to. Where is James? I asked. My mother's face changed. The joy drained out of it. Upstairs, she said. In his room. I climbed the stairs. The steps creaked the same way they always had. I stood outside his door. Our door. We had shared it growing up. 2 beds, 1 room. I had not been in there in 4 years. I opened the door. James was sitting in a chair by the window, staring out at the fields. His back was to me. He did not turn. "James," I said. He did not respond. I walked around, stood in front of him. He looked up. His face was different, thinner, older. The scars had faded but were still there. His left eye still drooped. His hair was shorter. Someone had cut it. Badly. "It's me," I said. "Robert, I am home." He looked at me. No recognition. Then his eyes went back to the window. I pulled up another chair, sat next to him. We sat there for an hour, neither of us speaking, just looking out at the fields. The corn was gone, harvested. The ground was brown and bare. Winter was coming. "Does he know you?" I asked my mother later. She shook her head. "Some days he seems to. He will look at me and I think he remembers. Then it is gone, like a door closing. Most days he just sits, stares. He eats if I bring him food. He sleeps if I tell him to. But he does not talk. He does not laugh. He does not do anything. How long has he been like this? Since he came home. 8 months now. Have the doctors said anything?" She looked away. "They said this is as good as it gets." I went up to his room every day, sat with him, talked, told him about the war, about the places I had been, the things I had seen. I did not tell him the worst parts, just the parts that felt safe, towns, rivers, the way the snow looked in the Ardennes, the sound of church bells ringing when the war ended. He never responded, but I kept talking. One day, 2 weeks after I got home, I took him outside. My mother said he never went out, just stayed in his room. But I thought maybe the air would help, maybe seeing the fields, the barn, the creek. I helped him down the stairs. He moved slowly, stiff, like his body did not quite know how to work anymore. We walked across the yard, past the barn, toward the creek. The water was low. The banks were overgrown. We used to spend hours here, skipping stones, catching crawdads, lying in the grass and watching clouds. I pulled the stone from my pocket, the one he had given me, the one I had carried for 3 years. "Remember this?" I asked. He looked at it. No expression. "You said you would skip it when you got home," I said. 7 times. I held it out. He took it, turned it over in his hand. His fingers traced the smooth surface, slowly, like he was trying to read something written there. Then he threw it. It went into the water, skipped once, twice, then sank. I counted. 2 skips, not 7. But he had thrown it. He had remembered how. He stood there, staring at the water where the stone had disappeared. Then he turned to me. His face was different, not empty. Something flickered behind his eyes, something I almost recognized. "Rob," he said. 1 word, clear. My name. I nodded. He reached out, grabbed my arm. His grip was tight, urgent. "I'm sorry," he said. His voice broke. Tears ran down his face. He pulled me into a hug, held on like he was drowning. I held him back. We stood there by the creek, 2 brothers, one who had come home, one who had almost made it. The wind blew through the fields. It sounded like it always had, like the war had never happened, like we were still just 2 boys skipping stones and lying about fish. But we were not. We would never be again. They sent James home in January of 1945. I did not go with him. The war was still grinding forward, and my unit needed every man. I received the paperwork 3 days after he left. Transfer approved. Patient James Michael Calloway. Destination Veterans Administration Hospital, Des Moines, Iowa. Expected arrival January 22nd. I wrote to my mother that same day. Told her he was coming. Told her what to expect. I tried to be gentle. I used words like recovering and making progress and under medical care. I did not use the words the doctor had used. Stranger, broken, gone. I do not know if it helped. Her reply came 4 weeks later. The envelope was thin. 1 page. Her handwriting, usually neat, looked shaky. "He is home," she wrote. "The hospital kept him for 2 weeks. Then they sent him to us. They said we could care for him better than they could. They gave us instructions, how to feed him, how to help him dress, how to keep him safe. They said to be patient, that he might improve with time." She did not say whether she believed that. The letter ended with a single line. "He does not know me, Robert. He looks at me, and there is nothing there." I folded the letter. Put it in my pocket, carried it for the next 3 months. We pushed deeper into Germany. The country was collapsing. Towns fell with barely a fight. Refugees clogged the roads. Old men, women, children, all of them walking away from something, or toward something, or just walking because staying still meant dying. We found the camps in April. I will not describe them in detail. Some things do not deserve the dignity of careful words. I will say only this. We thought we understood what the war was, what evil looked like. We were wrong. What we found in those places redefined the limits of what human beings could do to each other. I stood in one of those camps, surrounded by walking skeletons and mass graves, and the smell of death so thick it coated the inside of my throat. And I thought about James, about the fact that I had spent months trying to bring him back, trying to make him remember, trying to fix him. And here were thousands of people who would never be fixed, who had been so thoroughly broken that even if their bodies survived, their minds would carry the scars forever. I thought about the doctor's words. A stranger. Maybe James was a stranger. Maybe the man in that hospital bed was not my brother anymore, but at least he was alive. At least he was home. At least he had a chance, however small, to find some version of peace. The people in these camps would never have that chance. I do not know why that thought made me angry, but it did. The war ended in May. Germany surrendered. We stood in formation and listened to the announcement. Men cheered, threw their helmets in the air, embraced. I stood there and felt nothing. That night, I sat alone and took out my mother's letter, read it again. He does not know me. I folded it, unfolded it. The creases were soft now, worn. The ink was fading in places. I thought about the promise I had made. We watch each other's backs. I had failed. I had let him die. Then I had let him live. I did not know which was worse. They kept us in Germany through the summer. Occupation duty, bureaucracy, endless waiting. I applied for discharge in June. It was approved in September. I sailed home in November. The ocean was the same. Gray, cold, endless. I stood at the rail and watched the water and thought about the trip over. 4 years ago, James had stood next to me, talked about the stone, about coming home, about skipping it 7 times. I still had his dog tags. I pulled them out, held them in my hand. The metal was warm from my pocket. His name, his number, his blood type. I thought about throwing them in, letting the ocean take them. It felt like something people did in movies. A symbolic gesture, closure. I put them back in my pocket. Some things you do not let go of, even when you should. The bus from New York to Cedar Rapids took 2 days. I slept in fits, woke to landscapes I barely recognized, fields, towns, highways, all of it untouched by the war, clean, whole, like the last 4 years had happened on a different planet. Cedar Rapids looked exactly the same streets, the same buildings, the same church steeple rising above the trees. I walked through town with my duffel bag over my shoulder and my discharge papers in my pocket. People stared. A woman smiled. A man nodded. No one spoke to me. I stood outside our house for a long time before I walked up the path. The paint was faded. The porch sagged slightly on one side. The front window had a crack in the corner that had been there since I was 12. Everything was familiar. Everything was wrong. The door opened before I reached it. My mother stood there. She looked older, grayer, thinner. Her face collapsed when she saw me. She stepped forward, pulled me into a hug. I felt her shake. "You are home," she said. "You are home." I held her, did not speak. Over her shoulder, I saw my father standing in the doorway. He nodded once. I nodded back. "Where is he?" I asked. My mother pulled away, wiped her eyes. "Upstairs." In his room. I left my duffel in the hallway, climbed the stairs. Each step creaked in the same place it always had. I stood outside the door to our old room, the one James and I had shared for 18 years. 2 beds, 1 window, posters on the wall that were probably still there. I opened the door. James sat in a chair by the window. His back was to me. He was staring out at the fields. The corn was gone, harvested months ago. The ground was bare and frozen. Snow dusted the furrows. He did not turn when I came in. "James," I said. Nothing. I walked around, stood in front of him so he had to see me. His face was thinner than I remembered. The scars had faded, but were still visible. The burn on his neck, the long line across his temple. His left eye still drooped. His hands rested in his lap, loose and still. "I am home," I said. He looked at me. through me. His eyes were the same empty gray I had seen in the hospital. No recognition, no spark. I pulled the other chair over, sat next to him. We sat in silence for a long time, just looking out the window, at the fields, at the sky, at nothing. Downstairs, I heard my mother moving in the kitchen, the clink of dishes, the scrape of a chair. Normal sounds, the kind that used to fill this house every day. Does he ever talk? I asked her later. She shook her head. Not since he came home. Sometimes he makes sounds, grunts, hums, but no words. Does he eat? If I bring him food, if I put the fork in his hand, otherwise he just sits. Does he sleep? In the chair. Sometimes in the bed, if I help him there. But he does not lie down on his own. She stopped, looked at me. Her eyes were red. The doctors said he might improve, that with time, with familiar surroundings, he might remember. It has been 10 months, Robert. He has not improved. He has not remembered. He just exists. I did not know what to say, so I said nothing. I went upstairs every day, sat with him. Sometimes I talked, sometimes I did not. I told him about the war, about the places I had been, about the men I had fought with. I did not tell him about the camps. I did not tell him about the people I had killed. I told him the parts that felt safe. He never responded. 2 weeks after I came home, I decided to take him outside. My mother said he never left the room, just sat in the chair, day after day. But I thought maybe the air would help, maybe seeing the farm, the barn, the creek, maybe something would spark. I helped him stand. He moved slowly, stiff, like his joints had forgotten how to work. We went down the stairs one at a time. He gripped the railing hard enough that his knuckles went white. At the bottom, he stopped, looked around. No recognition. We walked outside, across the yard, past the barn. The chickens scattered when we came close. One of the cows lowed from inside. James did not react. We kept walking, toward the creek. The path was overgrown. No one had used it in years. Branches caught at our coats. James stumbled once. I caught him. He did not thank me, just kept walking. The creek was low. Winter always made it shrink. The banks were frozen. Ice clung to the rocks. I remembered this place in summer, green, loud with insects, the water clear and cold. We used to spend hours here, skipping stones, catching crawdads, lying in the grass and watching clouds drift past. I reached into my coat, pulled out the stone, the one he had given me on the ship, the one I had carried across an ocean and through a war. Remember this, I asked. He looked at it. No expression. You gave it to me, I said. The night before we landed. You said you would skip it when we got home. 7 times. I held it out. He took it, turned it over in his hand. His fingers were slow, clumsy, like he was relearning how to hold things. Then he threw it. The motion was wrong, jerky, uncoordinated, but he threw it. The stone hit the water, skipped once, twice, then sank. I watched the ripples spread, fade, disappear. 2 skips, not 7. James stood there, staring at the spot where the stone had gone under. His face was blank. Then something changed. A flicker, a crack in the emptiness. He turned to me. Rob, he said. One word, clear. My name. I nodded, could not speak. His hand reached out, grabbed my arm. His grip was tight, desperate. I am sorry, he said. His voice broke. Tears ran down his face. He pulled me forward, wrapped his arms around me, held on like he was drowning. I held him back, tight. My own eyes burned. We stood there by the creek. The wind blew across the fields. It sounded the way it always had, like nothing had changed, like we were still just 2 boys with stones in our pockets and summers ahead of us. But everything had changed. James pulled back, wiped his face with the back of his hand. He looked at me, really looked, for the first time since I had found him. I tried, he said. His voice was thick, halting, to come back. I know. I cannot remember. Most of it, gone. I know. He looked down at his hands, turned them over, like they belonged to someone else. I am not who I was. No, I said. You're not. He flinched, like I had hit him. But you are here, I said. That is enough. He shook his head. It is not. It has to be. We stood in silence. The wind picked up. Snow began to fall. Light. Dry. It caught in his hair. on his shoulders. I used to know things, he said. How to do things. Now I cannot even. He stopped, frustrated, searching for words that would not come. It is all right, I said. No, it is not. His voice rose. Anger. The first real emotion I had heard from him. I am broken, he said. I cannot fix it. I tried so hard, but I cannot. He trailed off. His shoulders sagged. You do not have to fix it, I said. He looked at me. You just have to be here, I said. That is all. Just be here. For how long? As long as it takes. He stared at me, then nodded. Slow, like the idea was too heavy to lift. We walked back to the house. Slow. He leaned on me. Not much, just enough that I could feel his weight. Inside, my mother was setting the table for dinner. She looked up when we came in, saw James, saw his face, wet with tears. Her hand went to her mouth. He spoke, I said. She moved toward him, stopped, like she was afraid to get too close. James. He looked at her, his face twisted, trying. Then he said it. Mom. One word. But it was enough. She broke, crossed the room, pulled him into her arms. He stood there, stiff at first. Then his arms came up, held her. My father stood in the doorway, watching. His face was carved from stone, but his eyes were wet. That night, we sat at the table together, all four of us. My mother had made pot roast, carrots, potatoes, the kind of meal she used to make on Sundays. James sat next to me. He ate slowly, carefully, like he was relearning how. My father asked me about the war. I told him the parts I could. He nodded, asked a few more questions, then stopped. He knew what I was not saying. James did not speak, but he listened. I saw his head turn when I mentioned certain places, France, Germany, Belgium. Whether he remembered them or just recognized the sounds, I did not know. After dinner, I helped him upstairs. He moved better now, steadier, like the walk to the creek had loosened something. In the room, I helped him into bed. He lay down, looked up at the ceiling. Thank you, he said. For what? For coming back. I sat on the edge of the bed. You are my brother, I said. I was always going to come back. He turned his head, looked at me. I buried you, I said, on a hill in France. I held your tags, and I wrote the letter home, and I thought you were gone. I was. No, you were here. I just did not know. He was quiet for a long time. Maybe, he said finally. Maybe I was gone. Maybe the person you knew. Maybe he did die. On that beach. I started to argue. He held up a hand. But I am still here, he said. I do not know who I am now, but I am here. And you are here. And that has to mean something. It does. He nodded, closed his eyes. I stood, turned off the light, walked to the door. Rob. I stopped, looked back. 3 minutes, he said. What? You still have 3 minutes on me. I smiled, the first real smile in months. Always will, I said. He smiled back, faint. But there. I closed the door, stood in the hallway, leaned my head against the wall. My chest felt tight, like something inside was breaking and healing at the same time. Downstairs, I could hear my mother crying, quietly, my father's low voice, murmuring something I could not hear. I walked to my own room, the one I had moved into when I got home. Smaller, just one bed. I sat on the edge and pulled out the dog tags. James's tags. I held them for a long time. Then I opened the drawer of the nightstand and put them inside. I did not need to carry them anymore. The months that followed were not easy. James improved, slowly. He learned to dress himself again, to eat without help, to walk without leaning. He spoke more, short sentences at first, then longer ones. His words came slower than they used to. Sometimes he stopped mid-sentence, searching for something that was not there. But he spoke. He remembered some things, fragments, the farm, the barn, specific moments from childhood, the tree we fell out of, the bicycle, the fish. But the war was gone, the landing, the beach, all of it erased. He did not remember dying. He did not remember being found. He had no memory of the months in the hospital, or the surgery, or the ship home. The doctors said that was normal. The brain protected itself, erased the worst parts. I did not tell him what I had seen, what I had done, what the war had been. If his mind had decided to forget, I was not going to force it to remember. He never became the person he was before. That person was gone, but he became someone, a quieter version, slower, more careful. He helped on the farm when he could, feeding the animals, mending fences, simple tasks. He tired easily, got frustrated when his hands would not do what his mind wanted, but he kept trying. Some days were better than others. Some days he woke up and seemed almost like himself. He would joke, laugh, talk about plans for the spring planting. Other days he woke up confused, disoriented. He would sit in the chair by the window and stare and not speak for hours. On those days, I sat with him, did not push, did not ask questions, just sat. One evening in late spring, a year after I had come home, we walked to the creek together. The water was high, the grass was green, insects hummed in the warm air. We sat on the bank. James picked up a stone, turned it over, smooth, flat, perfect for skipping. He looked at it, then at me. 7, he said. I smiled. 7. He stood, drew his arm back, threw. The stone skipped once, twice, 3 times, 4, 5, 6. It sank on the 7th. Close, I said. He sat back down, grinned. Close, he agreed. We sat there until the sun went down, watching the water, listening to the wind, not talking, not needing to. I thought about the promise I had made. We watch each other's backs. I had not kept it. I had let him die. I had buried him. I had moved on. But somehow, against all logic, against all odds, we were here, together, not the same, not whole, but together. And maybe that was enough. I buried my brother twice. The first time on a hill in France, I believed he was gone. The second time, by a creek in Iowa, I let him go. Not his body, not his name, but the version of him I had known. The boy who laughed louder than I did, who could skip a stone 7 times, who had promised we would both come home. That boy died on a beach in Normandy. I mourned him, carried him, tried to bring him back. But the man sitting next to me now was not that boy. He was someone else, someone scarred and broken and rebuilt from pieces that did not quite fit together anymore. He was a stranger, but he was also my brother. And I would take that. I would take the fragments and the silence and the days when he did not know who he was. I would take the slow progress and the small victories and the moments when he smiled and I saw a ghost of who he used to be, because he was here. And I had learned in 4 years of war that here was a gift. The wind blew across the fields. It carried the smell of growing corn and turned earth and rain coming in from the west. James stood, held out his hand. I took it. We walked home together. 2 brothers, changed, scarred, alive, and that, in the end, was all that mattered.